With a number of COVID-19 cases maintaining throughout the state of Texas, there have been more and more requests regarding the school year. While we still don't have all the answers, we'll be publishing episodes weekly to provide what information we do have and keep you updated on the 2021 school year. I'm Andrew Kim, the Superintendent of Schools for the Comal Independent School District. Joining me today are several different people. We have Karen Stevens, who oversees all of our attendance, disciplinary actions, and she's now just a worldwide expertise on Skyward attendance, so she's here with us. We have two assistant superintendents, Corbee Wunderlich, also Krista Moffatt with us, overseeing school improvement for secondary education and elementary education. Also, we have executive director of our accountability and research, Courtney Witherell, and her coordinator, Sarah Beth Stagg, here with us as well. So a lot of folks to talk about, a lot of different expertise. So we're going to start with Karen Stevens today. So Karen, there's been a lot of questions about attendance this school year because attendance is attendance, and that's very important to schools. In fact, the last 10 weeks of last school year, the Texas Education Agency gave us a waiver, so we didn't have to take attendance. So now, of course, we are taking attendance. There's been a lot of questions to that. I'm not really sure where to begin, but I know that just kind of briefly talk about the actual system that we use now to account for attendance and what types of students there are for accounting attendance, if that makes sense.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so we have two groups of kids.
Yeah.
We have our face-to-face kids who are actually in the classroom. And they're still just like they always have been. They're either present, they're absent, or they're tardy.
Yep.
So they just counted like they always have been. Then we have our remote kids, and they can either be remote asynchronous present, they can be teacher absent. Those are their two choices on a daily basis. Every child now also has the option to be logged in outside of the classroom hours and can do their assignment and check in and be counted what is called RWB. RWB is the code. And that gives us the ADA present code for the following day.
Okay, so the last bit, what you just said, I have no idea what you just said. So as a parent,
Yes,
a couple kids.
Right.
Now, my kids are on-campus face-to-face kids. So if they're present, they're present. But if for some reason they happen to just miss the day and they are sick, but they can still be counted present, though, if they engage in the system.
Correct.
Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir, you are. So if my kid oversleeps, misses the day,
yeah,
and she goes in and logs in to each teacher's LMS system, Google Meets,
or a Google Classroom,
Seesaw, Echo, whichever platform the school is using, and checks in, then that teacher can go in the following day and change the absent code to RWB.
I see.
And that gives them
that's where that code comes
present.
in.
Yeah, and that counts as present.
Do parents see that code, RWB, or is that something that we only see as teachers and administrators?
No, the parent will see that on that attendance tile on the family access.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when they see that, that means that it's been reconciled.
That is correct.
And theoretically, though, then attendance should be pretty high this year for every kid, just about, right? Unless, the student is really sick and just doesn't engage or check in with the LMS system.
That is correct. Every child has an opportunity to be 100% attendance this year.
Yeah, really, really so. And TEA has allowed for that.
TEA has given us that opportunity for every kid to do that.
The Texas Education Agency, I should say.
Yes.
So, so with that in mind, then, you said checking in, engaging. So that's a pretty broad word. So I think we're probably going to all define it differently. So how are you defining that? How are teachers defining checking in?
Every teacher can do that a little bit differently. Through ClassLink, they can go in and they have a simple check-in. Hey, I was here, and that's engaging for the attendance piece only.
Right, not for grades.
Not for grades. That's a completely separate bucket.
Learning, obviously,
Correct.
just checking in doesn't mean you're learning.
Right. So that's separate.
Yeah, and I know. What's your thoughts about our teachers in terms of where they stand on that? Because if we have an opportunity to be 100% attendance right now, right? Our attendance rate right now is right around 95% district-wide. So we're not seeing any kind of increase from last year in terms of attendance. So I'm wondering whether or not our teachers are still trying to struggle with this issue.
Our teachers are still struggling with it, and that's why they have the 24-hour reconciliation. They're going back in and giving those kids a chance to log in by 11:59 each evening.
Now, technically, though, they have a longer time than 24 hours to reconcile.
The teachers have 24 hours to do the reconciliation. The attendance office can have up to a week to do that. They can take the time to do that.
At each school.
At each campus, correct.
Right.
So, but ideally we need every kid to go in and log in if they're not face-to-face.
So if
they need to log in every day.
So if I'm a student, I can just ask a question. Hey, Ms. Stevens, I wasn't here, but hey, what's the homework for today?
And that it counts for
that ought to count.
That will count as present. That will make you present for that day. Correct.
Now, it could be reconciled the following day.
Yes.
And you'll see on the parent tie RWB or Rob, I guess.
You got it.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, so hopefully, our parents will be understanding and armed with that to some degree. And so to be able to talk with their teacher to reconcile attendance sake. Now, once again, I think for our teachers need to understand that attendance doesn't equate to learning.
That's correct.
And attendance doesn't equate to necessarily grades either.
Correct.
So attendance is attendance for that sake.
Right.
All right. So as confusing as that sounds, I think it's somewhat simplified for me now. So I appreciate it very much. And I know you're working really hard with our teachers to really get them, to really get to the better clustering of how we believe and what we work on this. So eliminating the variations that we have in our schools.
We're working hard.
Yeah.
And
so
they're
thanks
working
for that.
hard. Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things about then attendance is relates to grades. And the grades that I think are very important. And right now we're running on a day-to-day basis what we call sort of grade reports. We're trying to see how many grades, how many A's we're giving out, B's, C's, D's, and F's, and so on. And because one of the things that we want to be thoughtful is that kids are actually turning in assignments, because we do have students who are remote learners. We do have students who are face-to-face learners. So just kind of getting a broad spectrum of what we are seeing on that. So Courtney Witherell, she's our Executive Director of Accountability and Research, works closely with Sarah Beth Stagg on this. So Courtney, what's broadly speaking district-wide, or what are we seeing here in the first? We're not complete yet with our first grading period. What are we seeing overall?
We have been able to provide the principals with the grade distributions as of the first progress report time. And then we also gave them last fall where we were at report cards. So we're not quite there at the report card time yet. So we've given them an opportunity to compare where they were.
Compared to last school year at the same time.
Compared to last school year at the same time.
Which was prior to the pandemic, right?
Correct.
Which seemed like it was long time ago.
And that was also when we had all of our students on campus.
Yeah.
So we do have a different situation
this year. We have about 40% of our kids right now as we speak, remote learning.
Correct. So that just gave them kind of a barometer of where we were.
So what does that barometer look like district-wide?
For the majority of the classes, we do have what you would normally see on a grade distribution, a nice bell curve of grades. There are a couple anomalies in some courses, and that just gave the principals and the curriculum team an opportunity to look across the contents or maybe look across the schools to make sure that everybody's aligned. And if some of the anomalies are in the remote students, in the area of the remote students, reaching out to the remote students to find out what kind of academic support that they need.
Yeah. So I know that's one of our latest thing that we're trying to do to figure out how do we engage and talk with students who are, especially remote learners who are struggling. And it could be that they don't have a device, for example. So are we seeing a huge marked difference between remote students and face-to-face students in terms of grade distribution by any chance?
No, we ran the numbers as a district, and also the campuses got their numbers, and they were fairly aligned all the way across between how their on-campus and remote students were doing, which was a really good thing.
Of course, it's an aggregate district-wide report, so obviously there are some pockets in here and there that we're working on quite a bit.
Yes, we drilled down to the content areas to see where those pockets were.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, teachers have ultimate authority over giving grades, and that's a sort of a important thing there. But we certainly want to give a broader degree of guidance to all of our teachers that let's not penalize the kids for the first grading period at least, because we're all adjusting to being really a first-year teacher for all of us, as well as really first-year students in many ways, because we're all trying to learn how to work around this whole notion of all the restrictions that we have in place for the pandemic issue. So, all right, so that's good. So any Anything that you're seeing, though, other than that? I mean, obviously, there's some classes that you see there. You mentioned that in terms of perhaps some anomalies here and there.
There are some content areas, and then we also were able to provide the principals with the tools to be able to look at that, even drilled down to the teachers, so they can look on any disparities there and work with their staff to try to align the curriculum that our curriculum department
and once again,
provides.
The differentiation is that, hey, grades are grades and attendance is attendance. So I think that's something we have to be thoughtful about. And of course, we have now sort of physical separation to really, we've got to figure that out even more. All right. So, Courtney, appreciate it very much. Now, we do have some guidance that we're trying to give to our principals and our teachers about what it means to kind of give grades, work with students. Obviously, we are, you would think that common sense wise, we would just work with our face-to-face kids as if nothing's, happening other than wearing the mask, social distancing to where it's appropriate, where we can. But it seems like, let's talk about this first. It seems like some of our teachers are still struggling with face-to-face on campus work. And the reason I say that is because they're really relying on kids to use devices or laptops or technology to when in reality, prior to the pandemic, that wasn't really our focus. So what do you think is sort of the issue with that we're facing right now?
Well, I do think that the teachers were trying to be prepared for both ways. If a child should have to go and be quarantined for any amount of time, they wanted to go ahead and prepare the students to have access through technology and different devices so that it was a very continuous instructional flow should that happen. And we have had that in a very few situations.
And this is elementary.
And I'm speaking about elementary, but that is something that they were trying to get prepared and have the students put work into Seesaw and be able to continue, which has been very effective on campuses where students have been quarantined. It was pretty flawless. Kids were able to get right back on when they got home and they already knew how. But yes, we do know that there is a focus and a need for paper pencil, and we need to be careful to not get too far into the technology to where we aren't utilizing resources that we already know can work for our students.
Yeah, but you pointed out something I think maybe a little aha moment for me now. So the preparation about the potential and the possibility, which is becoming some real in some cases of our schools, where kids having to quarantine because of exposure. While we have, I think as of this podcast, 25 lab confirmed positive case throughout our school district among 17,000 people that are on campus on a day-to-day basis. But there's a lot more exposure, right? And we're erring on the side of prevention on that. So when they go to home to be quarantined for 14 days, even though they're not positive, they're going to have to go to the LMS, Seesaw, in elementary case.
Very much so. I can use my son as an example this week. He did test positive for strep, and it was an absolutely flawless situation. He was able to still remote participate in the lessons, submit his work. He even took MAP testing remotely today.
And I think the challenge, though, becomes about, I think, for me, the fairness of the fact that because some of our parents don't have enough devices or technology or capabilities, I think that might be a little bit, hardship there to figure that out. I mean, it would be a wonderful situation if everybody had a good, one of the most nicest, laptops and so on and so forth, I guess. So, well, I tell you what, trying to balance that out, it definitely is hard and very difficult for our teachers right now, trying to figure that out.
Yes, it has been. We've heard that from the teachers, and every day they're starting to collaborate more. Our curriculum department has put together more opportunities for them to learn from each other and those who have been successful with it. Right. But it's definitely been a challenge. I was able to witness and watch some teachers as a parent in a different lens today, and I felt the need to take some gifts to my kids' teachers. I really was impressed with their professionalism and the effort they're putting in, but it is challenging to take care of both, using technology as well as some of the old, more traditional methods they're used to.
And what we'd like to see in some instances is the option that we don't, we understand that for some students it is more comfortable to use the paper and pencil method, but we are seeing in some classrooms where the students are given the option to use their device if it's comfortable for them. And if the learning that is occurring is suitable for the use of a device, a cell phone for a Quizlet or a quick Kahoot activity, that a cell phone is appropriate to take that quick method of formative assessment.
Yeah, because I think what I'm finding, of course, what I know is that talking with a lot of students, the ubiquitous tool that they have is a phone, whether it's an Android phone or iPhone. Then I'm talking about mostly our secondary kids here,
Yes, sir.
Middle school and upwards of kids. So I think that that certainly can be utilized in some things, but to write a paper, of course, I used an old typewriter back in the day, but to write a paper, you kind of need a device to do that. That gets a little bit difficult.
Yes, so we're also learning that our teachers are beginning to understand that hurdle, the barrier, that they really do have students out there that are trying to do their work utilizing a cell phone as their main driver for a paper of some sort.
I think the initial communication that went out, I think to some of our teachers, maybe at a couple of our campuses here and there, about a requirement of a school supply that is technology oriented, I think it was a little bit of miss. And certainly I'll take responsibility on that in terms of maybe not clarifying that situation for our teachers. But I think that when we say paper and pencil, we're not saying that you can't use technology at all. It's just that we've got to figure out how to go ahead and be balancing about the kids, work in the classroom. And remote kids obviously are going to do it more independently, perhaps, than the students who may be on campus. So I do think that balancing those two things out is very difficult. I wrote an email this morning about the fact that, it's like trying to take old Danny White, former quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, my favorite quarterback of all time, and asking him to run offense today. You know what I mean? Just run. And I can't do that. It's like, I'm not saying that our teachers can't adapt, but boy, we're asking them to do that overnight. And I think that's a very difficult task right now for our teachers.
And some of our teachers are being asked to do both, the remote learners as well as on campus and teaching the combo lessons. And those are the ones who really are having to learn so many new skills both ways and implement them at the same time.
Yeah. Do you, as we start, getting better, I do see in the second grading period for us to, with a lot of professional development that's coming forth for our teachers, perhaps we can get better in terms of balancing this act that we're talking about quite a bit that's frustrating some of our parents.
Yes, sir. I certainly see that being something that's going to get better as not only through the use of professional development, but also our teachers are just getting more comfortable week by week in monitoring or utilizing the modalities of the combo classes. So between training and just time and practice, we will be getting better.
Yep. So I do think that, there's great opportunities, and I think we're learning a lot. And I think we're obviously examining this to make sure that, when we look at the grade distribution, that, we're not seeing a significant number of kids getting penalized while we're trying to work through this stuff. Certainly, we're still going to have to do some work on that and make it better and so forth. So I really appreciate everybody being here today. I know there's a lot of conversation piece around this, and I think we'll have an additional conversation once we have the report card, distributed out around the 19th of October. We'll have some additional discussions on this particular topic. But for now, you've been listening to Comal ISD Radio. Join us next time as we talk about the next IDO change, which is the whole entire change again for the next grading cycle. So we'll talk to you more about that schedule, that information, and all the pros and cons to all of those decisions that parents have to make. So thanks for joining.